Okay, this is a video about my new book, Art and DIY Electronics by Garnet Hertz. I am going through the table of contents and I'm doing quick videos of just flipping through these pages to provide a quick overview of each of these chapters. In this video, I will talk about Theme 1, Frugal Innovations, which is the idea that a lot of DIY practice happens because people don't have money and resources to do it the proper way, and they just start hacking at it. And this is an approach that I've seen a lot of engineers, makers, artists, and all sorts of folks um, build stuff. I think it's super important, and it's not really written about it enough, and it's not really understood enough. So I correct all that in this brilliant cluster of chapters. So anyhow, this video I'll talk about frugality and the demanufacturing machine, zombie technology, bricolage, and hype cycles. Frugal innovations. Now, this is the first kind of themed chapter of case studies that, and I have three different chapters that and case studies that talk about the idea of frugality or building something with not a lot of resources. Um, I have a couple page intro that I provide a bit of overview. Um, but let's get into the guts of this. Now, um, what I talk about here is just gonna adjust this a bit. Um, I talk about survival research labs. Survival research labs is a book about DIY and electronics, or even any electronics or robotics in art, would be completely uh, a failure if you didn't talk about survival research labs, in my mind. Survival research labs, in my mind, besides EAT, completely was super inspiring to me as a kid in my parents' basement in Saskatchewan on a 386DX computer on a friggin' dial-up modem, looking at their FTP site in like 1993 or something. SRL completely kind of changed my concept of what could be done and how to do it. So this is for them and talks to them, talks about how SRL started out. So I use this kind of idea of punk robotics. And I talk about punk technologies as kind of like a theme that is an approach that a lot of people use, including SRL. So SRL was started in 1978 and 1979 with Mark Pauline in the Bay Area. This machine, here's a photo from 97 on called the Demanufacturing machine. And I try to provide an overview of how Mark Pauline started Survival Research Labs in the 80s, or conceived of it in the 70s. He'd been doing billboard modifications, kind of graffiti kind of stuff. And then got this idea to build this kind of pseudo company, an organization that made these large machine type performances. And the demanufacturing machine is a machine that you stick objects on the one side, they roll down, and there's kind of like this lawnmower chopper, lawnmower engine kind of lawnmower blade kind of chopper, and all this stuff gets destroyed in this bubble, and then is ejected out toward the audience over the duration of the performance. This is a more recent photo of the piece in 2011. And thanks to Karen Marcello for that photo. So SRL started, here's the original poster for this event. It's called Machine Sex. This wasn't some romantic lovemaking thing. It was more like a kind of like a meat packing plant in a gas station parking lot, kind of done illegally. And Mark Pauline had money stuffed in his pockets to pay off the anybody who wanted to come and stop him. Um, there's a picture of those folks at the first SRL performance. And so I use this to talk about, um, I use this SRL example to bring up another idea that I think is really important for people to pay attention to. It's the idea of zombie technologies. Now, what do I mean by zombie technologies? By zombie, I mean like um, technologies that are obsolete and kind of in surplus, and what happens to the afterlife of these machines and obsolete technologies. SRL is a great example of this. I mean, obviously, SRL is a lot more than that, but I use this to talk about this theory of technology that the Gartner Group uses. It sells reports on the hype cycle for lots and lots of dollars. I think this model is kind of bad. I think it can be improved. It doesn't take into account how things go obsolete. It's only concerned with how to sell products. My argument is that the there is some creative potential of technology after it's obsolete, partially due to economics. The stuff, or I argue, I take this Gartner Group diagram and I start overlaying stuff like artistic, interest in technology is more at the beginning and then more at the end. I mean, and this is up for debate, but that's why I published it. Also, talk about how, you can think of technology evolving into a new media phase, a consumer commodity phase, and what I would say is a zombie phase. Now, I've written about this with UC Parica in the past, and I've expanded on it here. So if you know UC media archaeology and that kind of stuff, this is kind of along those lines. I'll also talk about the how women were very involved in SRL from the start. The one common critique that this work has is that it's all just sort of like toys for boys and violence and stuff like this. And it is these toys for boys and violence, but it's also toys for girls and women and people and all sorts of stuff. It has a very kind of like democratic kind of punk mindset kind of origins. Um, yeah, so I try to pull out different lessons that we can learn from survival research labs because I basically owe them, I feel like I owe them a lot for what I do and what I'm interested in. So yeah, so that's the first chapter of the frugality section. Frugality in the Demanufacturing Machine, Zombie Technology Bricolage, and Hype Cycles. Survival Research Labs, my new book, Art and DIY Electronics by Garnet Hertz. You can buy it today if you like. Thanks.